Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Today's episode is for most of the people that are in the fire service and in the fire department who maybe got promoted and never asked or never even thought they were going to be leaders. They were really good firefighters. They worked hard, they passed an exam, and one day somebody just handed them a hat, a different color, and said, right, you're in charge now. No playbook, no manual, no honest conversation about what it actually means for the people sitting around the table watching to see what you're going to do next. And that gap between holding the rank and actually leading is where I think most crews quietly fall apart, where really good firefighters become disengaged, where the culture of the watch gets shaped, not by intention, but by accident. My guest today has spent nearly 2 decades in the fire service and more than 10 of those years as an officer at Boca Raton Fire Rescue in Florida. And rather than wait for someone else to write a playbook, he wrote one himself, The Modern Fire Officer, Communicate, Motivate, and Lead. It is the book I wish existed when I was first promoted. It's honest, it's direct, it's operationally grounded, it's not even very big, so you can actually read it and it's not in massive words. And it's built for the officer who's standing in that gap right now, wondering what kind of leader they want to be. So whether you're about to step into a leadership role for the first time, or you have been in the chair for years and quietly know that nobody ever really taught you any of this stuff, this conversation's for you. Please welcome to the podcast, fire captain and author, Jared Vermeulen. I'll see you on the other side. So I want to be straight with you and the audience before we start. So I've read book 1 closely. So we've got Communicate, Motivate, and Lead. And I think it's exactly the type of conversation that certainly the UK Fire Service needs right now. Book 2, which people can see over my shoulder, that came out March of this year. I haven't given it the attention it deserves. We'd also said to you on WhatsApp the other day, I was like, I don't want to speed read books. People send me books and I'm like, I like to read them and then digest them. And sometimes I'll go back a chapter and I'll look again. Because I think similar with audiobooks, when you hear it twice, you think a different thing. It's the whole, a man never enters the same river twice thing, because like your mind changes a bit and then you reread it and you think about something again. So we're going to focus a lot of today on book 1, but I wanted to maybe start with, you were hired in 2007, weren't you?
Yeah.
What was the version of the fire officer that you probably looked up to as a young firefighter, and how much of that picture has actually held up through this evolution yourself?
Yeah. So the picture of the officer then, a lot of them, unfortunately, they were like not interested in the rookie. They were
Yeah.
interested in making sure you got your evaluations, that you did what you had to do in training, that you were cleaning and stuff. But they had no idea, about my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure they even cared. I never saw them off duty. I mean, this is kind of like a different time too, like cell phones were still dumb. And but I mean, even still, like I didn't have their phone number. I couldn't contact them. There's a few that were good. There was a few that like really wanted to connect, but most of them, they weren't interested in that. And I think there's a big difference between then and now, even on that level where like I want to connect with my whole crew, rookies included. I don't care if it's day one. Like they got my phone number. It's like, you call me anytime, day or night. You got an issue. I want to know about it because you're my guy or girl. I'm responsible for your success. I need to know stuff. You don't have to tell me everything. Obviously your privacy is your privacy, but I want to be there. And if you got a question, don't be afraid to, ask it. So I think that's like a major difference between then and now. Also too, liability was different even, the way we did business was different with because, phone cameras in 2007 were crap,
Yeah.
So no one's like videoing anything yet, it's just like a different life.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the pressures that we face right now, I mean, it's so different. Even social media. I mean, the damage that social media has done to the fire service, just giving a platform for some of these, keyboard commandos to go and attack each other, over politics or whatever the hell they want to do. It's just what a different time.
How do
Crazy.
you quantify the access element of it? So We work in a 24/7 job. So someone's always at work. This is one of my crews will be on today doing something. I'm not here yet. Technically, I'm responsible for them, which is weird because I'm obviously not there.
Right.
So I'm like a watch commander in the UK Fire Service. So beneath me will be, or on my team, sorry, will be a few crew commanders, crew managers. And when I'm not there, one of them's in charge, and vice versa. But I've already had, well, I had one phone call today, and I've had quite a lot of messages, many of which I haven't yet answered. I always say to people, like, ring me, just ring me. If you don't ring me, I'll know it's not that important. Otherwise, you'd have rang me. If it's a WhatsApp, it might go unread for days, weeks, maybe. I'll get around to it. I will get around to it
Right.
at some point. And you can pin people in your WhatsApps. So like more important things stay near the top of it because otherwise there's just hundreds of unread stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But some people still, I mean, there still should be a line, right? Because my missus will sometimes be like, "Oh, people call you like quite a lot." She's a teacher, and people don't tend to ring her outside of work. But I always say like, "Well, no one's at work when you're not at work
Right.
because that's just this is kind of the way your work works." But my work, people will be there and they might need questions answering. They might need things that only I can sign off at this point in time. Now they could ring my manager, but my manager would be really disinterested in watch level stuff because that's supposed to be my job to deal with it. And if it's a priority today, then I'll probably deal with it. But how do you balance people not allowing the fire department, the fire service to be their everything? Because for some people that can fill a void that they're not getting in their home
Right. Yeah.
life. And there's also a balance of not allowing it to consume you because it is a black hole to an extent.
Oh yeah, for
You're
sure.
never going to fill it up. You know what I mean? You could do everything. You could do all the overtime and everything like that. And I suppose there's an element of filling your own cup back up as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean definitely like a culture shift too, even from 2007, even going back to where it's like, yeah, like you make this everything, the brotherhood, everything that's always
Hmm.
comes first, and it's like no, it doesn't. Family comes first. The
Mm.
priorities in your life comes first, and that's something that hopefully we really start to instill more and more with our new hires, so that they understand that. Like, look, when you're here at work, I expect 100%. But when you're not here, focus on your family.
Hmm.
Remember this is work and this is a means to an end to give your family and yourself, a life with, obviously purpose and meaning, but also, a life that you can, afford the things that you need and go on a nice holiday and do whatever, in life. But the work is something that supports that, it not consumes you, and that's getting into a lot of the peer support issue type thing where you're letting work consume you, and you're allowing your foundation, which is family, which is whatever is important in your life, to erode. And
Mm.
when that erodes, then you're left with work, and then when work doesn't go well, or you go through seasons where you get bad calls, you get bad leadership, you get whatever, and then all of a sudden, you're on fractured ground.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think it has to start early, and and we have to those that have been in the department a long time, we have to have that whole shift to where, listen, like, I love it here, I love doing this job, but you know what I love more? Being at home, being with my family, being with the things that I find important, and creating that foundation too. Because unfortunately, you might not have that foundation. Maybe you're a young person, you don't have a family yet,
Mm.
so now what do I do? Where do I go? Like, who is my
Mm.
foundation? And so there's a little bit of soul searching there. I can't, tell you, who that is, but you got to focus on that in order to create it, instead of focusing the other way.
1,000%. There's something you mentioned early on in the book, which is the term willing. And having the will to do something. What does an officer who's willing to actually show up day to day look like versus one who simply holds a rank? Why did you choose that word and not something like the more obvious ones like ready or qualified? There's a big focus on the willingness of someone.
Right, yeah, it's much different. It's you're looking at this that you're making a change day in and day out. Like most of the time, people take an officer. Well, I shouldn't say most of the time, but people take an officer role, right? And they think, I'm already doing this thing, right? I'm already running this call. I'm already at the fire station. Why not get paid more to do the same thing that I'm already
That's
doing?
it. I hate
And
that.
yeah, you're not doing the same thing that you're already doing. I hate to tell you. So there's a willingness there, number one, to fix yourself because you're going to have a lifestyle change. I don't care how good of a firefighter you are. You know, you take an officer role, you're having a lifestyle change for sure,
Mhm.
because now you're dealing with all kinds of different personnel issues that you wouldn't have dealt with before. You're dealing with all kinds of, hazards and things that you've never thought of before. You're responsible for different things that you don't realize because a lot of times, like, oh, I could be responsible for this call on scene. Okay,
Mhm.
but it's not just that. It's everything else. It's everyone around you, underneath you, above you. You've become, responsible for a lot more things. And then, number one, before you even get there, are you responsible for yourself? What are you
Mm.
doing when you're off duty? Like,
Mm.
you're out drinking before shift? You know, do you have things right at home? Is your foundation good? Are you right here? Like, are you eating well? Are you exercising? If you're not doing all that stuff, then you're going to have a hard pull to get to the top on this thing.
Mm.
And that's all willingness. You have to be willing constantly to do that thing, to get better, to have some hard conversations with yourself that, yeah, like I kind of fell off the wagon here, a little bit. I got to get my health back up. I need to stop drinking. I need a little bit, I need to do these things and then I can get to work and now I got to get better at all that stuff. And now I gotta make myself more, available to people, like, to 'cause I should be having at least one one-on-one with everybody on my crew every day, or
Mhm.
every one of my subordinates every day, and that takes a massive amount of emotional currency, and
And
EQ.
intentionality.
Intentionality, yeah, for sure.
Mm. Being
Yeah,
really, really intentional about where we. Today's episode is proudly supported by PBI. For over 40 years, PBI has been trusted and proven in the fire service, protecting what matters most: firefighters. PBI develops high-performance protective fabrics designed for the realities of the fireground, with a focus on flame resistance, low thermal conductivity, break-open protection, durability, and comfort. Because when conditions change quickly, your PPE has to do more than just look the part. It has to perform again and again under heat, stress, wear, and real operational use. We're incredibly proud to partner with PBI because their work sits exactly where this podcast lives: firefighter safety, education, innovation, and helping crews better understand the protection they really rely on every single day. To learn more, visit PBI Products and explore the science behind the fabrics protecting firefighters around the world. Let's get back to the show. So the shift system that I'm currently working is a self-rostering system whereby we've got more members of the team. So I've got more firefighters and more crew managers than you would have on a different shift system. So there's still only one of me, but there's more of them. And I don't work with the same people every day because it's self-rostering. So we pick and choose the shifts that we work as long as a collective, we cover all of the shifts
that's
over the
interesting.
months. It is interesting.
Yeah,
I think it's terribly designed from a
right, yeah.
leadership and support, well-being, development, consistency. And
It's
I
kind of
think
free for all.
it, yeah, and even more
Yeah,
so, you have to, I think, have to focus so much more on your interactions with people and culture, because every single interaction that you're having, because there's less of them, they carry more weight. So I'm very, I'm sure I fail on a daily basis, but I'm very intentional about creating and carving out moments to have that time with people so that we're both doing the team thing. We're setting the standard of the tempo for the day. We're being intentional about training, why we're doing it, what the outcome is, what the expectation is, but then also finding little pockets, whether it be during standard tests, whether it be a transition after lunch, whether someone's just in the TV room doing something, to carve out those little moments and quickly find a way to slip into the personal and just put the finger on the pulse of that, and maybe use myself as an excuse to relate to something that's personally gone on, whether it's an adventure or a setback or whatever, to try and open up the door of sort of vulnerability or humility to try and just get an insight,
Yeah,
if I can,
relationship building.
as to where that person is at. But nothing tells me to do any of that in my procedures. I mean, it has some really big, vague titles,
Right,
around, emotional intelligence and, they will say empathy somewhere on a document.
right.
These things, because they're so complex, because I always talk about the difference between complicated and complex. Like, combustion engines are complicated, procedures are complicated, people are complex. Things that have humans in them have wide variations and don't necessarily follow logic threads. They sometimes five goes before
Yeah,
three, and then
yeah,
you have to reorder the thing. You know what I mean? It's like a safe. All of them have the same numbers, but the orientation is very different. Some
right.
numbers matter more to other people, the way they want to be acknowledged, the way they want to be addressed, respected, valued, how much or how little of your time they feel they might need. How do we how do we put something like willingness, which is really kind of, you're trying to put like a values lever on people when you're doing that. You're trying to say, hey, look, if you are the sort of person that you should be, which is a leader that really cares about people and blah, 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 then you should do these. And I go, yeah, so you say, Jared. I mean, if I'm
Right.
actually looking at my job role, all it's got is 12 bullet points. And I feel like I'm ticking all of those boxes. Do you know what I mean? It's very, very, I mean, leadership is an art form. So
Oh,
an
for sure.
art is, wide and random. You could look at
Mhm.
something and say it's crap. I could look at something and say, oh, well, what a beautiful piece of art. How do you think we incentivize that willingness for people? Or more specifically, how do we optimize for that in our recruitment and selection processes? Have you seen any good examples of it? Do you think we're doing it well?
I don't think we're doing it well,
No,
and I
neither do I.
no, not at all. Yeah, that's why we're having such a issue here with, leadership across the board. We're having a issue with mental health.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's so complex, and that's why, relationships matter because everyone is so different and complex that you have to know the person, to know that 2 plus 2 equals 5 for them,
Mhm.
type of deal. So that's a lot of work. And in my opinion, that's why span of control is low. So in your situation where it's high, that makes it very difficult to foster those relationships because trying to know all those people is very difficult. So when you're trying to truly lead, like the span of control has to be smaller because you have to know those people. You have to know what makes them tick, what they need, what they don't need, how they're motivated, how they're demotivated, and actually have a rapport with them where once you figure that out and employ training or employ whatever, that they're actually going to listen to you,
Yeah.
that they even care about whatever you have to say.
Mhm.
I mean, all this stuff has to start at the beginning, and a lot of that starts with the hiring process. And I think that we need to, at least in the states, we have a pretty like I think across the board hiring for a lot of career departments where you take a psych exam so they make sure you're not Jeffrey Dahmer or something before you,
Mm.
and then and then a polygraph so you can lie about smoking weed or
Yeah, yeah.
something on there, and then they hire you, which is complete stupidity. And
Mm.
instead of that, there's got to be other emotional IQ assessments. There's got to be other testing that is way more useful to the job than that we're doing. But liability is handcuffing us on some of these things. But we have to make a
Mm.
culture shift on those things in order to bring that in, and then train on it from the start. And I
Also
think,
retirement, like we're losing people so fast in the UK that
oh
we're
yeah,
like, right,
yeah,
well, Jared's left. Someone's got to take his spot. I mean, Pete never showed an interest in development and stuff like that, but he actually did the course. Remember, did that course like 6 months ago. So I mean, he's
right,
kind of next in line. So Pete,
right.
congratulations.
Yeah, here's the badge, buddy.
Here's the badge, buddy. Swap that hat out.
Yeah,
You're a leader now,
right.
brother.
Yeah.
Crack on.
So
And
we're
he's like,
yeah we're
do I get
behind the
paid
eight
more?
ball.
Yeah, you get paid more. Yeah. Wicked. You know?
Nice. Yeah, no, we're behind the 8 ball on it, but we have to show that the usefulness of it by by showing that the proof is in the pudding. You know what I mean? You can, do it the hard way. You can not make relationships, you can show up for a paycheck, you can do all those things, but your life's gonna be a lot more sucky than if
Mm.
you actually put some hard work up front, built those relationships, worked on your communication skills, worked on your emotional IQ to where you actually have, a rapport relationship, all those things built up. You actually have an idea who's working for you, who you're working for, so that you can make your blows count. You're not just striking the wind on
Mhm.
some of this stuff. And you know, one of those one of the ways that usually happen in past practice, right, is you got that one guy or girl that man that person's a leader. It just seems so easy for them. Like
Mm.
the people just listen. They say something, and people listen. Like we're gonna go to training. No one balks, right?
Mhm.
They're just like, oh, okay. I guess we're going to training. I'm great. You think they did nothing to build that kind of rapport? Those people work their ass off to get that kind of rapport. And how they do it, they built relationships and they listened actively and they use good body language and they care, and they also, what else they did? They were a hell of an example, right? They never whined about it. They did the hard thing. And that's the willingness coming right back. Like if you're not willing to do that thing, you're just shooting yourself in the foot in this job. And
But
then
for someone that feels like people don't listen to them, I've had this with someone before, and we'll
mhm,
talk about stuff that happens when I'm not there, and they'll talk about the challenge of getting people to do it, and it's harder for me to relate to that only because I don't face. And don't get me wrong, I fuck things up all the time. I'm terrible in lots of ways, but I don't necessarily come up against the same challenges that this person does in getting people on board, getting people to own even small tasks. Um, and they tend to just absorb it all themselves and then come to me about burnout, really. Because you pair sacrifice and self control in the book. And it feels like that's quite a deliberate pairing because like if you're all sacrifice and no self control, it's just like martyrdom, isn't it? It's like setting yourself on
mhm,
fire to keep everybody else warm. The officer that just takes everything on, never switches off, and then eventually will just become resentful, and it becomes the problems themselves. But I suppose if you've got full self control and you don't make any sacrifices or at all, you can become quite detached, and you might be really composed, but like the crew never feel supported or never feel seen by you. So I find it hard at times to say what it is that you're doing that's any different because that's this thing is that people are so layered, aren't they? Mine comes from some high level sports team stuff. It comes from having businesses outside of organizations. It comes from my dad was a Cub Scout leader and he took me camping a lot. It comes from all of those variations, and I feel like none of these can be built quickly. Even just, listening to us for an hour or something like that. I'm like, we're not going to hit you with a verbal, knowledge bomb that's just going to boom, kick your trajectory. I mean, we could kick you left and send you into reading the book, but then that's the will, isn't it? Do
mhm,
you know what I mean? There's a willingness to even listen to this,
right.
and then there's a willingness to go, that Jared guy was really interesting. I mean, he spoke about this, he spoke about that. Let's go and have a look at his book in the notes. Maybe I'll buy one. Maybe I'll go and see who he is on LinkedIn. That's the will bit. And this isn't CPD in an organization, which is ironic because I think this is exactly the sort of thing that people would take value from because it's the soft skill stuff sometimes, isn't it? Well, most
Yeah,
of the
of
time, really.
course. Yeah. The sacrifice and self-control thing. Yeah, in the book, it's very deliberate, that pairing.
Mm.
And in the book, I liken the officer to a parent. And
Mhm.
and certain people get, like, upset with that, like, "Can't treat firefighters like children, they're not children." I agree 100%. It has nothing to do with that. It
Yeah.
has to do with the qualities that a parent shows in order to raise a child, right? If we can
Mhm.
take those qualities, not treat them like a child, but take those qualities. So, why does a parent do that? Why do they sacrifice their time, energy, funds, and all that? And why do they use self-control? It's 'cause they want that child, a good parent, to be better than them, and they want
Mhm.
them to be successful. And they're going to limit themselves in order to accomplish that. And that's what officers are going to have to understand, that that's a reality also of an officer, is that they're going to have to do that same thing. Does that happen overnight? You have a 5-year-old and next year, now I'm done. I don't have to sacrifice any more self-control anymore. No, it takes like 20 years, if that, maybe more. You know what I mean? Because you're always going to be a mentor there, and so this isn't something that happens overnight either. It takes a lot of deliberate time. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be whatever, but as long as you continue that mindset, you're going to win. So that's what happens in the long run. What you get in the long run, like with a child, you get someone that's high functioning that people want to be around,
Hmm.
right? Same thing with your crew. It's going to be high functioning that people want to be around. And what does that do for you? You get to, say, you get your purpose and meaning, that I got to build something like that, and I got to enrich the lives of these people
Hmm.
that are now enriching the lives of the community through better work.
Mm.
And all that is work, lots and lots and lots of work. And that's a willingness, and um, you know, of those getting into the role that need to show. The unfortunate reality, like you said, is, hey, Bill just retired. You're up.
Mhm.
And the mentorship didn't happen between that. The department didn't show how important those skill sets are. They showed how important it's like pulling a hose line off and knocking a cone down, on
Mhm.
training or something a million times.
Mhm.
But they didn't, work you through some communication level classes, bring in an expert. They didn't, you know,
Never.
um, you know, get their officers together and be like, all right, we're going to hash out some stuff right now. Like, this is some of the things, like, give us real feedback and then implement the real feedback, not just be
Mm.
an asshole, but actually do the thing that, you're asking advice for. And so
Mm.
we're at a disadvantage there big time, where we have a system that is kind of failing that way, or we're kind of rebuilding the plane as we're flying it.
Yeah.
And it's yeah.
If it was a business, A, it would have gone out of business a long time ago,
Oh, big
and
time.
B, you'd have probably, paused distribution for a while, or you'd have, put some of the stores. You'd I just closed everything for a month or 2 months and brought everybody in for an all associates day, and done some serious CPD,
Yep.
because we very much there's almost a problem with the fact that it can't fail at times, because that kind of diminishes accountability as well. We don't make anything. Do you know what I mean? We do
Right.
this ethereal emergency response. I mean, we were very good at it and all that jazz, but we're never going to stop doing it, and it can't go out of business. So it's very, I mean, it can get worse and get better, but that element of, and also measuring culture is very different to do. They often say, the things that are easy to measure aren't necessarily worth measuring, and the things that are
Right.
most important to measure are impossible to be able to
Right.
actually put a metric on them, which is things like culture.
Yep.
Do you see much things like 360 feedbacks, or do you do many feedback processes in maybe organizations you've visited or distributed, or people who have reached out to you after reading the book?
Yeah, at least with our department, we do like the cheesy, like, send out a anonymous, like, uh,
Yeah.
review kind of thing. Like, tell us what we're doing. It's like,
As in the
okay.
department sends it out to the public, or you send it out
No,
internally?
to the firefighters themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay, come on, guys. You know that kind of stuff. Maybe you'll knock out the issue with that. And I don't want to be like super negative. Is usually like an administrative like body is going to look at that. They're gonna get a bunch of things back, and they'll be like, "No, no, 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 no. Oh, this one's pretty easy. We'll knock that one out. Give them something they like. We'll do
Yeah.
that one." You know what I mean? And then there's the rest of that gone. That means nothing, and it has no weight because it's not what we're doing right here, talking
Mm.
one on one. I can see like your body language. I can see what matters. That has to take place tactfully with respect. But if that's not taking place, then real change isn't gonna happen. No culture is gonna be built, and,
How
that
about, from an
relationship.
individual level, though? Like, if you were gonna go for a promotion, would there be any mechanism of measuring what your team really think of you?
Yeah, that you're getting into some now we're getting into some union issues here, but
MSA are supporting us on today's podcast, and I chose to partner with them because I've been wearing this stuff for nearly 20 years, and they are the global leader in development, manufacture, and supply of incredible, safe products that really protect people, not just our communities out there, but also first responders, most importantly, all over the world. Get yourself over to MSA and have a look at it. The high performance protective clothing for emergency services responders. They also partner with us on the UK Pink Firefighters. That's because we love them. The helmets with the reflective visor, the F1XF, absolutely epic helmet. And not forgetting how they improve firefighter safety through their connectivity in the connected firefighter platform. MSA are always pushing the envelope, and it's a real privilege to be able to continue to grow our partnership together. So whether it's your PPE, your bunker gear, your helmets, your SCBA, your thermal imaging, your Luna, or your portable gas detection, both of us know that this equipment needs to work. It needs to be high quality, reliable, and dependable in the moment. And that's why I use MSA, because they know what's at stake. So what I mean is, if you went for a promotion, I would love to see 70% of the marking criteria to come from your abilities as a leader, your influence, your cultural capital. So if we sent out anonymous, mandatory, people have to do them. So HR might know where they've gone to or whatever, or maybe they're just completely anonymous, but like it says, right, we're going to send this to 4 of your firefighters. We're going to send it to 1 firefighter on the same shift on a different station. We're going to send it to your fellow managers. Say you were an engineer or a lieutenant going for a captain's job or something like that. And then maybe 1 from your manager above and 1 from someone at the same level of you on another station. Maybe there's like 10 total, yeah? And on those it says, scale of 1 to 10, how trustworthy is Jared? Scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think he listens to you when you're present? Scale of 1 to 10, how professional is he? Scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think he prioritizes the well-being of his team? And that makes up 70% of the marks. Now, you'll also sit an exam maybe, and you'll also sit an interview, but you might get lucky on an exam and you might bullshit your way through an interview. So they matter. And maybe we could even do a scenario. Sometimes you see services and organizations, departments doing like scenario training where like we'll put you in a scenario, see how you perform, and we'll score you. But you could have hit the metrics of your station or of your watch or your shift by just being an arsehole and just screaming at people enough every day. Not enough that they'll put in a complaint, but enough that they're going to just do it. And the metrics might show that you are getting a great outcome on your team, but maybe nobody likes you. So, do you know what I mean? But if we just put it, so in the UK, a lot of the time, it is just do these random development courses, which are impossible to fail, have an interview, and wicked.
Yeah.
The fact that you got the job and everyone knows you're an arsehole. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're an arsehole.
I'd be
doesn't matter if you're not even
worried.
trustworthy.
Yeah.
Well, it matters,
I
obviously.
agree.
But it's like no one's testing it.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
There's got to be a a mechanism, right? And the trick is, how do we make this not a popularity contest? Because you could make people happy by doing Jack Diddley squat, and
but then the metrics wouldn't be holding up.
Right.
You still got to achieve the metrics and get the positive feedback.
Right. So putting that together in that way, how do we do that? How do we achieve the metrics without it being a popularity contest? That's can it be done? Sure. I think too, what it needs to be is there needs to be a step up type program where you're fulfilling that role for a designated length of time prior to taking a test. So you are doing
promotions.
that role. Yeah, you are doing that role. So this is not a surprise. You take a test, get the spot. It's not the first day, right? You're doing that role beforehand. On top of that, there needs to be some type of agreed upon evaluator. Hopefully, your boss or someone within the department that we agree that this person or a group is, as a whole can evaluate a person and whether or not they're ready, and it's not just like you come up for the promotion yay or nay, like a
Hmm.
Caesar, like live or die, no, like it's not like all of a sudden you're on the cutting block. It's like you got months, right? So
Yeah.
they know you're already stepping up, right? You're doing the role. You meet with the evaluators and they're like, "Hey, this is what we're looking for. This is what the department wants. This is how you should treat the people." If we see those things, yes, when the promotion comes up, you will be promoted. If we don't, then you're going to have to extend this, training until you do.
Hmm.
And I think if we have certain, programs that are set like that, and we really, um,
Do you not do temporary promotions?
we do step ups, but a lot of departments don't. So,
We do a lot of them in the UK, and some people
right,
hate them because, like, you could do a job temporary for like 2 years, and then we could still promote someone else into the position you've just been doing from a
right,
different station. I'm actually not against that. I'm not against that at all because someone's like, so you're my boss. You go, you get a new job, you get promoted. I'm just on your station. So they go, right, well, Pete's next in line. He's passed the courses. We're going to put him in a temporary spot, but there's also people at station 19 and people at station 24 or whatever who are in a similar position. But because of logistics and stuff, we're just going to put Pete in position now temporarily and see how he goes. And then we'll run a proper process in like 6 months' time or whatever. I'm not against that at all because just because you work
right,
at station 12 doesn't mean you're the best person for the job. So, yeah, but I know the patch.
right.
I know all the local risks. I know the trucks. I know the team. This makes so much
Hmm.
sense. Like, I'm not on performance and capability. So what? So what? In my opinion, because
Right,
just because you got placed there 7 years ago doesn't
right,
mean you would necessarily be the best person for that job. Just because you know the local area, so what?
right.
Put someone else there for 6 months, they'll learn it. Do you know what I mean? And please push back and
Yeah,
say,
no,
Pete, I
no,
completely
I
disagree.
agree.
I
Yeah,
don't
it
know.
doesn't mean you're the best. And there's ways to, make up for that too. Where okay, say I'm the guy that was there for 7 years, stepping up on the promotional test. Maybe I get a certain point system
Hmm.
because I was there, right? If that's the promotion, so I've stepped up for 7 years, I should get some type of a seniority point for doing that because I've been allowed
Should
to do
you?
it. Meaning, I think so. Time and seat. If you're doing a
Why?
good job and it's agreed upon that you are, I mean, it's kind of like a seniority, that I've
Yeah,
been
but this
doing
is
the
not the
job.
job you were doing before.
What do you mean?
So this isn't the job you've done for 7 years. So this is the promotion job. Just because you did your old job well for 7 years.
No, 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 no. I mean, in the step up role, like you're doing the
Apologies.
job you would be promoted into.
Yeah.
You know what I
And you,
mean? So if you're doing that job well, maybe it should mean something. It's just an idea.
yeah, but maybe I'd have done it just as well. But I wasn't at that station. So that's not fair.
Right. I mean, in general for the position, not just the station. Like
Yes,
if
yes, yes. Yeah,
so
yeah.
like if I'm a step up captain, we'll say,
Mhm.
or a watch commander or whatever, and I keep doing that role and the test is coming up and you have someone that has done it for 7 years and someone that's done it for 7 months,
Yeah.
then maybe, the person that has done it for 7 years has like a sliding point scale to where I get a little bit of an edge because I've been doing it.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But that's why
Yeah.
I don't want to get into an echo chamber where
No,
we
I
just high
mean,
five each other. And I'm not pretending I have an answer for anything
yeah.
here. But I think experience doesn't equal competence.
That doesn't, no, because you can have a 21-year firefighter, right? So they've
Yeah.
done nothing for 20 years. It's like they're a 1-year guy 20 times in a
Yeah.
row. Right. So
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, how do you evaluate that? You know, so
And
that there
also,
has to
maybe
be a
on their
system.
station, they've never had to deal with someone on paternity, someone on a disciplinary, someone on performance and capability, someone on long-term sickness. You know what I mean?
Right.
You could
Yeah.
have all of those things at
Oh
a
yeah.
station that's just had people at those life chapters. Now, I appreciate you also can't design for those. Like you can't.
Right.
Well, look, everyone at my station has been absolutely fine. No one's been off sick, so like I've not had an opportunity to deal with those things. But that's all I'm saying because it's the same with incidents. You know what I mean? If you've worked at a busy city station,
Right.
you could have had 10 times the exposure in 3 years
Yeah.
than someone's had
Exactly.
in 20 years.
Yeah.
But you could have
Yeah. I mean,
moved
it's
stations. If you're on a
that's
quiet
that's
ass
the
station where
issue.
nothing ever happens, you could have moved.
Right, yeah, I mean, that's the issue. These, uh, situations can get so complicated, like, how
I
do
know.
you I know. It but that's I mean, that's just it with emotional, intelligence is like, how do you even, quantify it? What does it mean? What does it look like? What it looks like to me may be different from you and different from everyone else in the department.
Yeah.
But we gotta do something. We gotta start putting a foot forward and,
Mhm.
implementing something, whether that looks like, okay, at least we're gonna get an expert in here on teaching us body language. So you see this, that means this. There's a cue. Okay. Okay. Now I have a little bit of firepower, right? So if I'm, dealing with a situation where I see someone that's really closed off, like, closed
Mhm.
up, whatever, looking down. Okay. I already know like this whole situation just changed for me, right?
Mhm.
I'm gonna approach it differently. I'm gonna talk differently. I'm gonna, maybe what I was gonna say, I'm not gonna say now. I'm gonna wait,
Mhm.
and when we start making those incremental changes, these type of conversations that we're having, we're like, how do we fix this, promotional thing, might get a little bit simpler, maybe, because we're already operating on a higher level.
There's one pivot I often give when I talk about communication. Like I used to do this thing, and I still do it sometimes with other organizations where it's kind of like a 1 hour session where I'll do on listening to other ones so others want to speak. Is basically what it's about. So how do we be an active listener? How do we keep the conversation going, which is effectively what podcasting is. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So even just subtly telling people what the difference between open and closed questions. Some people unconsciously can't can't understand that they are living with closed questions all of the time because
Yeah.
they may be a parent and also in a command role. They're so used to being on a incident ground or the parent that's because even with your child,
Right.
asking calibrated open questions is the best way to get them to do the thing that you want them to do anyway. It's kind of like it is manipulation, but people hear manipulation like it's really evil. Manipulation is me doing something for my missus that I know she likes because I want her to love me more. There's nothing wrong with
You
that.
sicko.
She does love me, and I want her to keep loving me. So I'm going to do the
Yeah,
things that
yeah.
she likes. But RP,
Right.
that's manipulation. You're manipulating her. Yes, and she's manipulating me. She says,
Right,
"Baby,
yeah,
can you rub my shoulders? Baby,
yeah,
can we do this tonight? Baby, can we have this food? Baby, I
right,
got you this because I know you like it. Oh, you're manipulating me. No,
yeah,
I want you to like me. I want you to keep
right,
liking me, and I'm going to do things that you like."
right.
Because I want us to have a strong relationship and avoid all the challenges and all that sort of stuff. But even just open and closed questions, people sometimes can't even understand that they are living in constantly asking closed questions. And that's just one subtle shift that I try and give to people, even just paraphrasing, repeating things back to people to demonstrate that they're being listened to. These are some things that are very easy to make you more relatable, maybe even more likable. You said about popularity earlier. I wanted just to dig on that a little bit because you look at the research around high performance teams, and it does suggest heavily that psychological safety is an important part, which requires them to feel comfortable around their leaders. So, if we know that improves performance, popularity isn't entirely irrelevant, is it?
No, it's not.
So, where does likability become a leadership asset rather than a liability? Because you do want people to want to listen to you and want them to want to do the things that you want them to do.
Right, yeah, I think it's actually pretty core,
Okay.
and I'm gonna get a lot of pushback for that, I think, because I mean, the old guard, it was like, "I don't care what you think."
Yeah.
Um,
I'm big, you're
and
small. Do what I say.
right, and it was, that whole buddy to boss thing, right? Like, "I'm not your friend anymore," right? And now I'm your boss. Right? That whole era, and I think that's completely wrong, at least in what we do. This is not the normal 9 to 5 cubicle job. Like,
Mhm.
we have to like each other. Like, that's not a reality, We have to have a relationship. And, like, it's not like we're best friends and we're going to the pub every, night type of deal, like, but, like, we're gonna like each other, we're gonna have a relationship where we respect each other. That's important,
Mhm.
and, that's something that we can't lose focus on, especially in the leadership role where, I'm not looking necessarily to like be the popular guy that like I want you to like call me all the time and whatever because we're the best friends ever. But I do want to be popular in the way that you respect me because I respect you and I care about
Mhm.
you and I get that same thing in return.
Mhm.
And I built that over time. And by the way, I am available, right? If you want that, to be the case.
Mhm.
I think that's extremely important. And it's something that we kind of left for a while. I think it's starting to come back,
Mhm.
but that is an extremely important part of a relationship between a leader and a team is that yes, you should be a friend.
Mhm.
There's times to put different hats on.
Mhm.
Sometimes I can't um, you know, be the friend that you want me to be, right?
Mhm.
That you might think you need in the moment because now I'm on doing discipline or something like that. But
Mhm.
really, what kind of a friend wouldn't tell you when you're messing up?
Mhm.
What kind of a friend wouldn't say, "Listen, man, something's wrong. Like I can tell you're upset. Like something's going on. I don't know if it's at home, if it's here. Even in a peer support role. Like,
Mhm.
um, what kind of a friend is that? That's not a friend. Friends aren't just for the easy time. Friends are for when it's hard. And
Mhm.
and I think that that's why officers have to be friends. But they have to know, that sometimes being a friend is hard and what
Yeah.
that looks like.
Help doesn't always feel like help as well
Right.
sometimes with team members.
Uh,
I always think like, is this a shirt or a t-shirt conversation? Because
Yeah.
like I don't wear a shirt in the role
Right,
that I'm
right.
in now. I had to wear a shirt for a little while. But I also heard someone speak about it like, does this person want to be helped, heard, or hugged? And obviously, you don't necessarily hug your people that you work with, although some do. And I'm a big hugger. I'm super tactile.
Right.
Although I have to be careful with it because I never want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. But also, I say it off the bat. I'm like, I'm a hugger. I'm a high
Right.
fiver. I'm a hands in on three kind of guy. It's cringy.
Right, yeah.
It sucks. But that's me, baby.
Yeah.
Um, the reason I ask is because someone said it to me a long time ago, and I'm not sure I'd still agree with it, even though when they said it, I did. They said, like, as your manager, and that was the bit they used to start the sentences with, because, and they gave me a good justification because they're like, as your manager, how can I support you on this? If
Right.
someone was struggling with something. And they said they used
True.
that caveat because if I just said to you, Jared, how can I help? And you're like, well, mate, I really need some help on Saturday morning picking up my kids. I'm like, oh, yeah. No, it's like, as your manager, how can I help you? Like, what can I do to facilitate that around a reasonable adjustment or,
Right, right.
flexibility or time or stuff like that? Because that's the point where I think some people can over index into
Right,
blurred lines.
right.
Do you know what I mean?
And
Oh, do you mind if we pop out just after lunch to drop this stuff off at my kid's school? You know what? Sometimes, yes, but not every day.
right, right.
Do you know what I
And
mean?
then
I
I
don't
mean
want to get into the position where it's a regular expectation that we're going to be dropping stuff off at your kid's school because you forgot to do something last night or
right,
your missus' change of shift didn't work very well, so you need to do this thing that's always falls in the middle of our day.
right.
That's there's a line there we need to draw very, very, very
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah.
There's a
That's the magic,
one-off.
yeah, the magic of communication, like, so, if that happens where, right away, I'm gonna touch back on my relationship with that person and their
Mhm,
prior, work history. So something that's happening all the time. Okay, listen, bud, this is the last time. I'm
mhm,
uncomfortable with it. I'm gonna take care of you, but we're gonna figure out, how to do this from in the future on.
mhm,
Um, and if you have a report, that's gonna be okay. You know
mhm,
what I mean? Because they're like, oh, okay, sorry, like, because listen, man, you're putting me in a bad spot but I want to do this for you or whatever it is like or I'm not
mhm.
going to do this because of XYZ but it's a communication part there or on the other side of it like they never do this so this must be something pretty serious. I'm going to see
Yeah.
if I can bend over backwards for this one, you
Yeah,
know
definitely.
and that is I think one of the most difficult nuances of leadership is to treat everyone differently but still have the respect of the whole, to
Mhm,
treat them how they need to be treated, not just blanketly. Like I treat
mm,
everyone the same. That ain't gonna work. I treat
no.
everyone how they need,
Treat
but I
everybody
still
fairly. Don't treat them the
fairly
same. Yeah.
right. But and if I can treat everyone fairly, but the way that they need it, and they still get the respect from the team, then I've done
Mm,
it.
mm. I often think when we've got to do something special, or something weird happens or something goes wrong, and it's not a big you stole something, you were racist, you were this, you were that, you know what I mean? It's not a big thing, but it's a thing that's in the gray, which with most people, 90% of the stuff is in the
Right.
gray, you know. So I will, after the first what's going on, how's it going part of the conversation, I'll go, well, let's look at the guidance. And I always refer to it as guidance. I never refer to it as policies and procedures, even though that's what they are, policies and
Right.
procedures. And I always say, similar to with my missus, I'm like, here's a problem on the table in front of us. It's not between us. It's not between you and me. And I'm
Right.
going to talk into the problem and you're going to talk into the problem when we're on opposite sides of it. The same with members on my team. I'm like, we're on this team and there's some guidance in front of us. So let's both look at how we interpret this guidance. Willingwood Watches are back supporting the podcast, and honestly, it means a lot to me because this brand is built on real service heritage. Whether it's the melting down of the original 1920s British brass firefighter helmets, and they also use upcycled fire hose on all of their straps. It's not just design, it's about the job, and it's built into every single component. I've been wearing them for 10 years now. Found them back in 2015, actually, and they've genuinely been a part of my daily kit ever since. I've got two. I've got the Valiant and I've got the Chivalrous as well in Midnight Blue. But the thing about the brand, about Willingwood Watches, it stands so different because of its story. Take, for example, their Dunkirk watch. That's not just a timepiece. It's actually built to honour the Massey Shore fireboat. I'll be honest though, the one I've got my eye on this year is the Fearless. It's more of like a field watch on the station, on the watch. It's a smaller 39mm case, compact, rugged, just feels right for the job. So you can actually get 10% off a Willingwood watch by using code FFPodcast. If you want to be part of the history and you want to wear it on your wrist, jump in the notes, check out Willingwood Watches. Let's get back to the show. Because guidance is accessible to everybody, and I'll often ask that as one of the leading questions. I'll say, what's the guidance sort of made you think about it? Where do you think we sit on this? What do we need to do about it? And if they haven't got an answer, I will, ask them to take a look at it. Or,
Right.
let's bring it up in front of us and let's read through it together. Because usually it's often written intentionally vague.
Right.
To empower managers, which is
Right.
great.
Hopefully.
But then, timid managers will go, oh God, the policy's rubbish. Like, it doesn't tell me anything. And then they just go up and then they'll just ask the next rank above them, like, oh, I don't know how to interpret this. It's not very clear. It's super vague. I don't know what to do. And they've sort of put the other person to one side and they've gone up to their manager and gone, what do you think I should do about this? And that person's like, I ain't got time to be dealing with this. You clearly aren't managing or leading your team. Right, it's A. And then I'll come back and go, oh, yeah, I've spoke to so-and-so. They say it's A. And I'm like, oh, did you get into the context? No, look, they said it's A. Yeah, but you didn't even because they didn't need to be bothered with the decision you could have balanced and managed
Right.
yourself
Yeah.
on the team by interpreting this guidance as to what seems fair, what seems reasonable. If you ever speak to people in HR, and I have conversations with them quite frequently because we're all on the same team. I'm like, what feels reasonable? I feel this is reasonable. They might give me some advice. And I go, yeah, I'm not going to do that on this occasion. I'm going to do this. And they'll go, okay. Do you know what I mean? Because there's very few hard and fast rules unless it comes to something that's, verging on disciplinary action. Most of the time sits in the gray. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's why, when there's a level of preparation when you're coming into a leadership role. It's part of the willingness working on yourself that, I have these principles, right? This is what's important to me, right? This is where I'm going to draw a line on a lot of these things, and that, I'm not going to, you know, go against those unless something, a different truth reveals itself that now, okay, I need to move that line. Otherwise, I'm
Mhm.
going to stick to it. And then that's the whole expectations part where I'm make sure everyone knows, like, hey, like these are my lines in the sand. I'm working hard to, keep you guys safe, do these things, but please respect these things.
Mhm.
And when people, at least, 99% of people have that type of knowledge, they'll be like, okay, I already know, you know, what's good and what's bad. Like, that's easy then, and is there, a few that's going to push on that? Yeah, there will, but that's already been, it's not a surprise. It's already been laid
No.
out. You know what I mean? Can you lay out every expectation there ever was? No, but that's where, again, that hard, fast communication comes in, to where, like, something happens, you can't let it go. If it's
Mm.
something that's like, okay, now this one, like, some things, yeah, not that big of a deal, but maybe this is a big enough deal, or I think it's going to continue. I'm gonna have to have this conversation right away, you know.
Mhm.
And even though that's the difficult thing now, it's the easy thing later. And you know, unfortunately, we do a lot of avoiding in the fire service because we don't have the experience level
Mhm.
of you know, the body language thing, the open uh, you know, type questions, the active listening, those things to where like we haven't a lot of us haven't put that work in. And when
Mhm.
we haven't done that, right, we're already at a disadvantage.
Mhm.
And then, man, all these other things become massive, you know, because when we could employ those things, even though it might be difficult in the moment, um, the problem becomes a massive issue down the line.
Mhm.
And
I feel like they're like get arounds their skills to deploy. It's like having 6 legs or 8 legs as a spider. Like if you've only got 1 leg and your 1 leg is this skill set and this is
right,
the only way you lead people, when you come up against a difficult conversation, it's going to be clunky, it's going to be hard. It's like trying
oh
to
yeah,
hop over a speed bump.
yeah,
But if you've got lots of ways and lots of mechanisms to keep the conversation fluid, to reframe the question, to come at it from a different angle, to
hmm,
lean into empathy, now lean into their professionalism, now lean into their values of team, now lean into their values of family, or whatever it might be required to find a way through that hump in the conversation, whether it's humility, whether it's showing yourself to be professional, whether it's showing yourself to be vulnerable. You know what I mean? You need to
oh yeah,
have different notes to play
right. The
to
tools in the
get,
toolbox.
you got to have the tools in the toolbox
Yeah,
to get through some of these challenging conversations.
right,
Um, and I think you sometimes when I have to have a difficult conversation, I come out straight away and say it, and I'm like, Jared, I've got something to talk about today, and I'm honestly like, feel initially this is going to be a difficult conversation, but I'm really confident we can get through this together.
right,
Because there's lots of space in between us in this conversation, and I'm going to fumble my way through it. But I'm hopeful you're going to give me that space to try and talk around this thing because I feel like it's going to be a challenging thing to discuss. And but then when I knew we were going to discussing it together, I'm pretty confident that we're going to be able to get through this. And they almost want to lean in because you've given them
right,
lots of compliments in that
right,
kind of lead in. You've initially spiked their concern,
right. You're laying the
but then
groundwork.
you've gone, I've got faith in this, I've got faith in us, I really appreciate you coming in and showing up like this and whatever and whatever. And they're like, 100% Pete, look, just, so what is it? Just talk to me about it. I'm sure it's not, you're absolutely right. It's not that big of a thing. What the problem is this, you know what I mean? And I need your help because what I'm interpreting is X. And actually, having known you and worked with you for a little bit of time, I don't think it is X. So what I want you to help me understand is how I've got this interpretation of it, and leaves the door open for them to be like, I appreciate why you've heard it that way, or why you've seen it that way, or what you observed. Let me give you some context on it, because then you've given them an identity to
Right,
step into, which is, you're right. I'm not a shit firefighter. I didn't break the rules. I
right,
didn't do this thing maliciously. There was a mistake, but it wasn't done consciously. You're almost shining the best possible light on them
right.
and going,
Giving them the
this,
benefit of the doubt.
giving them the benefit of the doubt. This was likely a mistake because this is not the person I know you to be. So help me understand what I'm missing here.
Right.
Do you
Yeah,
know
no,
what I mean?
oh, 100%. You gotta lay the groundwork, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And lay it how you'd like it to be laid on you. You know, are
Mm-hmm.
you just, like, throwing bricks, or are you putting a nice path, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, by the way, you know, if this isn't the first time you ever spoke to that person, great, you know, if you've already built a rapport with that person, you know, it's not always possible, but, like, if you have done that thing, you know, which is can be difficult. And this isn't the first time you've had a nice conversation with him. You actually showed you cared about it. Hey, you know, like the week before, he said, "Hey, how you doing, man? How's the kids? Whatever, awesome,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, good to see you, whatever." And then the next time you have a conversation, it's about something like this. It's a little bit more difficult. You know, that you have a rapport to base this thing on, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where like the proof is in the pudding, right? Because if we don't put that hard work in, we show that that hard work, you know, and the back end pays off, then it's just all hard work that doesn't pay off. Then we're
Mm-hmm.
just setting everyone on the defense, right? And we're just working against ourselves and making it harder for ourselves. You know, that's why all those skills are so important. And yeah, does it suck on the front end to load up? maybe, but on the back end, you're gonna have a much better life and create a much better, situation for the people that you're working with and
Mm,
yourself.
mm.
And yeah, that's takes work. It's hard to do, but it's like I said, the proof's in the pudding on it.
You you couple together job knowledge and teaching in the book, and I really, because obviously my missus, not obviously, but negotiating now, my missus and my sister are both teachers, and I have a real fascination with teaching. I was in training school for a number of years, and even though we're adult educators, we obviously just label ourselves instructors, and
Right.
instructing and teaching are very different things. Knowing the job is obviously the foundation, but when I was reading through some of your stuff, the bigger argument is knowledge you can't transfer is only half of the job, and that multiplier is teaching. How do you think we get that more embedded in the way that we work with people and develop people, whether that be from recruit or even when we're trying to mentor or coach people moving into leadership, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, everything's a teaching moment in what we do. I mean, you can never learn enough. So you want to foster an environment to where you have that open mindset, so that you show that you're teachable, right? Like I'm learning all the time
Mhm,
still, and I'll make it known. Like I did not know that. I just learned that on this call. I don't care
mhm,
if it was a rookie or whoever it was that did it. Like that was pretty cool. I'm going to use that one now.
mhm,
And what that shows is at least like that guy can learn, then I could learn. And so the mindset's gotta be there. The other side of it is you have to know what people are good at, so then you can direct them.
mhm,
So I know what my crew's good at. Like a great example, like my driver is like a construction guru, and he knows electrical work like the back of his hand.
mhm,
So I get onto a call where I know like, okay, we got a little bit of a time on call where we're gonna be playing around trying to figure out this electrical gremlin and where it's coming from. I've already done that call with him a million times. We've been together for like 10 years, right? Now I'm gonna grab the rookie firefighter and be like, "Listen, go walk around with the driver, and he's gonna show you how to figure this electrical gremlin out."
mhm,
Okay? So everything can be a teaching moment like that where it's like it's all there. It's just how are we taking advantage of that and making sure that that information passed on is taking place. Is it easier just to like tell, "Hey, could you just like figure this thing out so we can get off scene?" Yeah. It's
mhm.
easier, it's faster, I know it'll just be done, but no one learns anything, and what good is that when he leaves, right, or not on duty?
Well, but it
So
also
we got
gives that person importance,
right,
like the whole
exactly,
knowledge
that's
is
the other
power.
side,
Is there a
right.
culture of the fire department where we find people knowledge hoarding? And where do you think that came from?
Yeah, I think, there are those that do that, and I think culture can overcome that, um, and, because, like, if that's looked at in a negative light, usually somebody that's gonna, knowledge hoard is doing it
Mhm,
because they wanna feel important, and if they're conceived as unimportant because of that type of a, mindset, then they'll probably start to share, hopefully, through cultural pressure.
mhm,
Um, Otherwise, leadership needs to weaponize that and be like, "Hey, you're good at this thing. Guess what? We're gonna have you start teaching at, the next, training is gonna be on this thing. We noticed there's an issue. You're good at it." So,
mhm,
it's kind of one of those things where, okay, we're padding your your ego a bit, but you're also gonna do something good
yeah.
for that we need. So, and that is a thing, and that's fine. Like you can pad an ego, and for the greater good.
Oh,
It's just
1,000%.
moving people the way that they
Yeah,
got to be moved. Not
yeah.
everyone motivates us like like the Pope, like some perfect motivation. It's it. Whatever that motivation is, as long as it's a positive thing, like use it, and
Mhm.
and get there. But yeah, the teaching thing is super important. It can be done at all levels. It can be done even after retirement. I feel like there's a lot of institutional knowledge that leaves where, okay, they can
Massive
leave, but
amounts.
bring them back.
Massive.
Have them teach
Yeah.
classes. Offer them like, hey, would you like to be a consultant? Would you like to come back and teach for XYZ and this amount of money?
We're
Why not? They
terrible
know
at
your
that in the
department,
UK. We're
you know?
terrible. We
Yeah.
have been doing what's called re-engagement in the UK, partially to just close the gap of struggling with recruitment and uncertainty of finances over the coming years, depending on whether politics shift left and right, and we don't always know what our budget's going to be for coming years. So we have done a little bit of plugging gaps, predominantly just on stations, though. It's not very widespread in my experience and understanding that we're bringing back those really, really, really fantastic leaders and mentors who can pass things down as
Right.
part-time instructors on 2 days a week or whatever it might be. Um, but I think they're the best place to do it because also most of the time they've lost their ego at that point. Usually when they retire because they know it's not
Mhm.
about who's the biggest fish in the pond. I'm not even in the pond anymore. I'm just
Right.
going to come and share my knowledge.
Yeah.
Because when you've got a really great practitioner still working in the organization, sometimes they have that curse of knowledge where they forget what it's like not to know something and they can skip steps or they can use jargon or they
Right.
teach at their own level rather
Right. Yeah.
than the learner's starting point.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side of it, which is they end up telling instead of teaching, which is delivering information rather than actually building a
Mm.
conceptual understanding. Because if you know your topic well enough, you should be able to explain it to a 7-year-old.
Right.
This is when you see great academics, or like there's a few people that speak on astrology. There's Professor Brian Cox in the UK is great at it. Like he'll speak about astrology, but he'll make it so simple, like a
Yeah.
child could understand it. And if you know your craft, physics as in chemistry as it might be in the fire service or whatever, then you should be able to explain it in 7-year-old language.
Of course. Yeah. And that's that. There is the art of teaching.
Mhm.
More skills to learn, just like you said. Where if you've mastered that subject, you should be able to, deliver it in its most simplest terms.
Do you ever have
Um,
any teachers and educators come into departments and speak about, like my missus did her master's in pedagogy because she's a teacher and that's just what she did. But I've never had it where, other than outside of the job, learning through like osmosis and seeing my
right.
sister and my missus do stuff. Um, I don't think we teach people how to teach in the fire department.
No, I mean, so like at least in the United States, if you get your instructor certificate through like your state or whatever it is, you have to take like a few courses, like course delivery, course design, whatever. But that's like online, some directional college, like
Hmm.
Northwest something online,
Hmm.
that you don't even do anything. It's like a joke. They just hand you a certificate after you like log in a few
Hmm.
times. So like real training usually doesn't happen. And that's another training that we could bring in just to this is how you teach, and that could easily become part of a mentorship program, right? You're reaching out, you're going to be in a role where you're going to be a leader. You got to
Hmm.
know how to teach,
Hmm.
just the same as you need communication skills or you need body language, identification. That should be part of it. And the thing is yeah, all this stuff costs money and time, but what does it save on the back end?
Mm.
Through the psychological safety that it might create through the maybe even the stop of some type of injury or worse, and or even the effect that it could have on the community through better service provided because you're
Hmm.
in a better place here to provide it.
Mm.
So those things are very hard to quantify, and you have to do it deliberately, if you even wanna do it, which then costs money and time, which is unfortunate because, like, I mean, I'm sure everyone could just straight up agree, like, yes, it would help a
Yeah.
lot, like, we don't really need to test this. It does work. We know it
Yeah.
works, but we have to start doing it. We have to, um, make it a number one issue and actually do the thing. And that's kind of what my second book is about is the cost of leadership, like what
Mm.
your leadership costs, not just like what it is, trying to help people to get the job done, to create the rapport, to create the psychological safety, but what does it cost? Like when you are in a position where now I'm enacting a policy that could be in and implemented for the next 20 years. What kind
Mm.
of damage could that do?
Yeah.
And or maybe what kind of like help it could create
Hmm.
too.
Hmm.
Um, and how important that is. And yeah, it's like it's our thing to win or lose. Like you said, it's going to go on either way, right?
Yeah.
Because it's
None
government,
of us
right?
are here to save the fire department. It was
Yeah,
here long before us, and it would be here long
right,
after us.
right.
We can,
We
if we
can,
want to, leave it better than we found it.
right,
Put in place things like what you've put in, which will hopefully be, cultural architects, which will be milestones, which might just tweak the direction in a few pockets of organizations,
right.
and will act as like a values multiplier or like a directional accelerator where you
Hmm.
wanted to try and go in this direction, then you found something you could grab hold of, like picking up a boost button in a game, and you're going,
Right.
yes, here's something someone else agrees with me. I can hear this, I can read this, and
Yeah.
I can share it. And maybe it'll help us move forward in this moment. But also, like, this first book was 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. 3 years ago, 2023.
There's so much you've done since
Yeah.
then. And this might be a difficult question. I know, we can feel free to remove it. But
Okay.
and it's one a lot of authors would probably avoid. But is there anything in that first book that your thought process has now evolved on, which has maybe changed? Maybe not like a regret, but something like you might add. Not about asking what you got wrong, but did you write anything with confidence that now different experiences have tested or evolved that process on? It is beyond a privilege to be able to bring the Firefighters podcast to you, and we are so grateful for every single person that supports, listens, shares, and follows our journey. And to help us keep doing it, create more, reach more guests internationally, and make the podcast sustainable, we're asking for you to help. And to do this, we've set up a Patreon page. By joining our Patreon community, you will get access to every single full episode archive we have ever made. Now, hundreds and hundreds of key documents that we've got in there on fire behavior, firefighter health, cancer risks, instant debriefs, and so much more. So if you feel like you want to join the Patreon crew and help us make this possible, head to patreon.com/TFFPC or check the link in any episode podcast notes.
Yeah, I think that, after writing the first book, it's very basic. It's really an introduction,
It should be, though. It's very
yeah,
practical. I'll say to people,
yeah,
it's a very thin book.
yeah,
Like,
that was
you can
deliberate. Yeah.
usable. Yeah.
Yeah. You notice how the words are big too? The
Yeah,
font.
nice and big.
Yeah.
But it needs to be.
Yeah. It
Otherwise,
does.
it's just too heavy. It's too much of a
Right.
lift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted someone you could read a chapter in like 5 minutes,
If you'd have put
and
both of them in the same book, is there an argument to say I wouldn't have read any of it by the time we spoke? But the fact
maybe.
that they're in two sections, I'm
Right.
like, I
Right.
can read this. It's foldable.
Right.
It's not got a hard cover. I put it in my bag. I took
Right.
it to work with me.
Right.
It's digestible, you know?
Right. It's not daunting. You pick it up, you're like, oh, this is, and look how big the font is. There's no
Yeah.
problem,
Yeah.
and then you can rip through it and then you feel accomplished. So very deliberate on that. Cause I mean, let's face it, firefighters I wouldn't say like they're accused of reading constantly, you know?
No, yeah, there's not an accusation that's laid at them. Oh,
Right.
you
Yeah.
bookworm.
Yeah. Bookworms, nerds.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's deliberately small, but to get back to your question, that it has a very basic like system in there, and I did feel like, oh man, I missed like a lot of stuff, but at the same time it's like you can't put everything in there, right? You got to get it to like a certain amount, try to really hit the good points, and then maybe build upon that. And that's why I really did the second book, because there's a lot of things in there that I was like, man, I wish I had put it in the first book, and maybe I wasn't smart enough to at the time, but now I've I've like kind of built on that a little bit, and
Mhm.
and man, I'm gonna do it now. And one of those things is, I'll say there's a few. One of them is validation. I talk
Mhm.
about validation a lot in the new book, and using that as a motivator. When you have a problem employee, and validation doesn't mean that I agree with what you did, right? I'm just saying that I see you and you're important to this department, right? You're here for a reason and you've done XYZ, right? I'm going to build upon what you've built. You might not have done everything perfect, but you deserve an accolade for something. I doubt you've done nothing in your career, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
gonna validate that, right? And say, listen, like, you're here for a reason, blah, 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 blah. And then when we get to the discipline part, it's like, I've already secured your position, right? You're not off your, back foot already in a defensive posture because, like, I've just said, like, this is why you're here.
Mhm.
And now this is why we're gonna keep you because we're gonna work on these things.
Mhm.
Which is a big deal. I'll get into that. Another thing I get into is self-esteem as an officer. It's extremely important. I think it's if I could give one thing to the world, it'd be self-esteem. I feel like I
Mm.
think it would fix a ton of problems. Because if you're comfortable with yourself, then a lot of those negative influences will not be in the way, like ego, right? If I'm already
Mhm.
comfortable myself, I'm not going to be working off of ego,
Mhm.
especially if I'm dealing with, like a disciplinary issue or whatever it may be at work. But if I'm comfortable with myself, then I'm able to be vulnerable. I'm able to be wrong. I'm able to be humble. I'm able to be a lot of things that are going to help me to, not just navigate difficult situations, but get better and have a mindset that's healthy. Um, and that's a work in progress.
Mhm.
To have that type of, to have a self-esteem that isn't verging into some type of egomania, you know?
Mm.
And,
I think people write off self-esteem and ego and maybe even pride because we
right,
have old polluting phrases, pride comes before a fall,
right, yeah,
ego is the enemy. And when people say you're full of yourself, like, who else do you think I should be full of? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
if you're not going to be your number one cheerleader,
right,
fuck me, the world is going to give you 100 reasons why you're shit.
right,
Do you know what I
and
mean?
then
There will
yeah,
be
then
the world will be lining up to kick you in the balls. Don't kick yourself in the balls. Like,
right,
come on. Do you know what I mean? You've got to practice a little bit of self-love. When you were a small child, you would walk up to the mirror and kiss it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not necessarily
yeah,
encouraging we all start doing that as grown-ups,
right,
but you've dampened down and suppressed and vilified
right,
self-love and, a little bit of self-esteem to the extent that you've just become enormously self-deprecating.
right, yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
and the world has created this, like, essentially everything is trying to discontent us right
Mhm,
now, right? Social media,
mhm,
politics, all this stuff, it's meant to discontent you, right? And that all that does is erode your self-esteem. Like, if you're not content, I'm not happy with myself, obviously, or whatever I'm doing in the moment, right?
mhm.
Everything is meant to do that because if you're not discontented, right, then you're not going to vote a certain way.
You're not
You're
gonna
not
vote
going
a certain way, you're not gonna buy a certain product,
yeah,
you're not gonna
exactly.
read a certain video. "Oh,
Right.
this is what you thought you knew about X."
Right.
You know?
Everything is attacking that way, right? So
Mhm,
everything is eroding that. So we have to be building at the same time because we're doing a hard thing. When we get out there, we have to trust ourselves,
mhm,
and we have to love ourselves to be able to get through some of these things that we're going to do to get a team to get through like a pediatric drowning,
mhm,
or you know what I mean, or pull somebody out of a fire and get back to the house and deal with it in a proper way. Like, if you're not okay here and here, dude, like, it's gonna be tough, and people can tell. Like, if you're hanging on by a thread, like,
mhm.
and you're the leader, they're gonna be like, "Oh my god, dude, this guy's gonna kill us," or
Yeah.
or like, or if they're in trouble, right? Like, now, if this guy's in trouble, I'm screwed.
Mhm.
You
Got the
know?
blind leading the blind.
Yeah, there's no help for me.
Yeah.
And that's danger,
Yeah.
danger, man.
I think that questioning and second guessing is extraordinarily dangerous, and that can erode a hell of a lot. But a lot of what we've been talking about here, and I just want to offer up the listener that's probably logged off by now, because they may have been thinking, fire service doesn't need more feelings. It needs more people who just do the goddamn job, follow orders, don't need my officer to be a therapist. We've softened a culture where the operational edge has just gone out with it. You know what I mean? That is the opposition position that will be held
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
maybe in departments worldwide. Like that argument does exist. Real people, real chiefs will think that. How
Mhm.
do you answer that if it's ever posed to you? And maybe people don't pose that to you. I don't know. Maybe they just ignore you.
No,
Like,
that's
how do you deal with that challenge?
yeah, that's the crux of the issue. My answer to that is, who do you want showing up at your house in your most dire time, right?
Mhm,
Emergency, maybe even a tragedy. Do you want the people that just get the job done? There's no feeling there. They're they might not even be there mentally. They're just working and they leave. Or
mhm,
do you want the people that get the job done and they care about what they're doing?
mhm.
They care. The team cares about each other. There's a difference there, right? And in
Is the
my
problem that
opinion,
people think they're diametrically opposed, like empathy and strength? Do they think they're
right? Yeah,
opposites? Do they
right.
think
Yeah,
humility and confidence are opposites
right.
or something?
They can't coexist.
Yeah.
And that's completely wrong. They absolutely coexist, and they have to, like yin and yang type. It's a dichotomy that has to exist.
Mhm.
And the what level of service do you want? Do you want the level of service where it's done well by people that care, or that it's done well by people that don't care?
Mm.
Because to me, that's what we're arguing about.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's kind of what we're talking about. Like, just get there and get the job done. But the thing is, like, if you don't care, whatever job that you're getting done isn't going to be good.
No.
At least not as good as someone that cares. So that's my thing. Like, who do I want showing up to my family? I want someone showing up that not only cares but knows what they're doing.
Mhm.
Both, not one of those
Yeah.
things. You know. So that's how I turn that on anyone that has that type of thought process on just get the job done. That's not how it works, and that might work like in any other industry, but not this one. Not this
Mm.
one. Like,
Mhm.
you're not gonna make a career doing that. You just won't. You have to find the purpose and meaning in what you're doing, and you have to be able to deal with the things that we see and do and feel and touch and hopefully not taste, but sometimes,
Yeah.
uh, you know, um, and you have to deal with that appropriately or you're not gonna make it. And, what does that look like? How do we do that? Well, we have to have those feelings and we have to talk about those things and we have to pat ourselves on the back when we should and we have to cry when we should,
Mhm.
and we have to uh, band together when we should and have hard conversations when we should
Mhm.
and not try to escape that by just doing a job because that will come and get you. And I
Mhm.
and I think that and I talk about this in the new book at length, is that is the problem. Like, we're at least in the United States, there's more suicides than line of duty deaths. That's insane.
I know.
Completely insane. Right there, it shows we're doing it wrong. The end. If there was a tool on the truck that was killing firefighters, even
Mhm.
one firefighter, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Every truck in the nation, take it off, it's done, right?
Mhm.
People are killing themselves. But because it's so unquantifiable, oh, it's a feeling, it's whatever. I don't know where
Yeah,
to
it's an
where to
intangible
start.
thing, it's personal, it's
Right,
Jared's problem, but once you
right,
start seeing that trend and that correlation,
right,
the data just starts screaming at you, and
right,
then you're just like, "We can't continue to avoid this. I'm not pretending to be able to deliver a solution,
right.
but ignorance is no longer an option."
Right. So you have to take a step. So what does that step look like? We got to start moving forward. We got to okay, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix this problem. But
Mhm.
we do have to enact something. We have to what could help? Let's try it. If it doesn't work, we'll try something else, but we got to do something instead of just sitting on our hands, you know?
When people do start to spiral into those moments, I suppose there's a couple of threads to this question. Whether it's a lack of a sense of purpose, whether it's a lack of belonging, whether it's a self-esteem thing as well. Because if you had high self-value, high self-worth, high self-esteem, you probably wouldn't think that the world's going to be a better place without you. Do you think you can build self-esteem? So it's terrible in any person. Um, but if they are someone that's not responsible for other people's well-being, even though we all are to an extent. But if your formal position, i.e. an officer, who really has an obligation to look after people, if someone moves from a firefighter into an officer's position and they have low self-worth, they have low self-esteem, do you think you can build that in someone that doesn't have it? Or is it something that has to come from outside of the job? Because sometimes these things happen through the natural course of life. If someone has a setback, they maybe get married, they maybe have children. Having children is a great personal development tool. I've said it many times
Oh
on the
yeah.
podcast, but I don't think you should have children to
Right,
better
right,
yourself, even though it definitely will.
right,
But some people, for them, just children's not on the card. Maybe they're not able to. Maybe they just don't want to.
right.
Um, do you think you can build self-esteem in people?
I think you can help coach them to do it. It's gonna have to come from them, but I and
It's an inside job.
it's an inside job, but it's not, you're not alone, so you don't have to be alone in it. Like, I think a lot of it has to do with, realigning perspective and realistic expectation. So, with someone like that, a lot of times they think all they do is fail, where they just need someone to say, "No, that's not true. Look at these things. You have done these things, right? Maybe you should try this." Like in the book, there I have a few ways to work on your own self esteem. One of them is keeping track of your own track record in a realistic way. Like I've done these things, so these are things that I have succeeded at. Sure, I've had some failures, but I have succeeded at these things. Let me
Mhm,
realign my perspective to say, yeah, I'm not a total failure here. Like I got a basis to work from, right?
mhm,
And there's different methodologies that you can employ. You can employ where you do like a journal, right? Today, I did XYZ. You have to be honest with yourself. Okay, yeah, I didn't do that one thing, but I did all these other things well. And how you do that too is, as a leader, you're trying to help someone, maybe that's dealing with that, is you need to help them with that perspective, right? If they do
mhm,
something well, be like, hey, you killed it on that thing today.
mm,
You know, it,
mm.
if there's a reason to give accolades, give it. You know,
Sometimes that needs to be publicly, sometimes privately, depending on
right,
that person.
right,
Sometimes
uh,
via email, sometimes in person. You don't want to make them
right.
feel uncomfortable,
Even a
but
text,
find what works for them.
right,
And even if they're like, "Nah, man, don't know what I was going to do anyway. It's my job." But yeah, I appreciate you is a big thing
right,
I put like at the end of a lot of the messages. A
right,
lot of the messages. I'm always saying to people, "Really appreciate you." I was thinking about this thing this morning, or thinking about a thing you did last week, and they were like, "Why are we thinking about that?" I'm like, "Just because I thought it was something you didn't have to do." And then we stepped up and did it, took the weight off me, took the weight off the team, and it was clearly like a choice. Like, if you hadn't have done that, it would have just been one of those things
right,
somebody else had to do. But you actually did it. You stepped up and did it. And I just don't know if anyone's mentioned it, but like, I appreciate that. I
right.
appreciate you doing it.
And be realistic about, timeline. It's don't put a timeline on it, but think it's like it's not gonna happen overnight. It's like falling in love with somebody, but it's with yourself. Like
Hmm.
if you um are dating somebody and like the next date or you're like, let's get married. No, like, hopefully not. Dear
Yeah.
God, you know.
Yeah.
So it takes time. You gotta get to know like certain things, and is that person perfect? I seriously doubt it. I'm sure there's some stuff like, man, I wish they didn't do this, but they do this.
Yeah.
And that's really awesome, and I really like that, and you know what? That overcomes all those other things I don't really like that much, and you have to give yourself that same grace where it's like, dude, there's plenty of stuff that I do, and I'm doing it, and I'm like, "God damn it," I just did this stupid
Mm.
thing again. I know I'm going down this road because I do it every freaking time, you know what I mean? I can't
Yeah.
help myself, and then I'm pissed off after, like, "God dang it, dude, like, I freaking did this stupid thing again."
Yeah.
But
But
and
it's
then
what evidence are you looking for to support which
right,
narrative?
right,
What story are you telling
exactly.
yourself?
And now I go
Because
back and
seeking,
say,
you'll find
"Yeah,
evidence to support the narrative you're looking for. And I
exactly."
think podcasting's made me think this a lot more as well. But I think about it wider in life, like vague, vague questions are punished. The universe
Right,
will punish vague questions. You ask a shit question, you get a shit answer.
right,
Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? Because that's what
yeah,
you
yeah.
deserved. But if a
42,
specific
that's
question
the
or a
answer.
specific ask or a really
Yeah,
calibrated question is, like if you said, "Why was I late to work today?" And then you go, "'Cause you're a piece of shit." because you clearly don't care. You
Right.
shouldn't even be a firefighter. Nobody wanted you to show up anyway. You see how nobody really even cared that you weren't there. I bet
Right.
everyone's slagging you off. Blah 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 blah. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Or if you're asking yourself the specific question, what would help me get to work on time tomorrow? Or
Right.
what thing? Me and my missus do it every single day.
What's the
She calls
triggers?
it peaks and pits, which is like what was the peak of the day and what was the pit of the day. Or I always prefer to do like a 3-to-1 rule. And I'm like, what's 3 things you're looking forward to this week? And then it allows you to talk about those things. It unconsciously focuses the
Yeah.
mind on things that you're looking forward to. They do this with cancer patients.
Okay.
Like you have to invent a future that requires you to be there for it. So like plan a holiday
Mm.
in 12 months time,
Right. Right. Yeah.
make a commitment to be somewhere in 8 months time. Or, what are we going to do for your next birthday?
Yeah.
Because the mind will draw you
Oh
towards
yeah.
the
Yeah.
thing that if you need to show up for something,
Yep.
then and other people are expecting you to show
Right.
up. And if you can put some public accountability out there for it as well, that's
Right.
why we like to say aloud things that we want to achieve in the day. For me today, it was, I've got a podcast coming up with Jared at 1:00. Going to make sure I've had the book read, which was pure Pareto principle right up until the fucking nose. Do you know what I mean? When you messaged me a few days ago, I was like, I've
Yeah.
literally read half of that book.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, I've read the whole goddamn thing by the
Yep.
time it came around because that aligns to I consider myself to be a professional. I'm not going to be
Right.
disrespectful of not having looked at it before I speak with him because that draws me back to the person I tell myself I am.
Right.
And also, if you have a perceived identity of yourself without any evidence, and that's just delusion.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? If you can
Right.
actually point to things which says, now, I am a professional. The episode always goes out on Monday.
Yep.
The next one always goes out on Wednesday. I'm always prepared. There was a book called Turning Pro by who was the guy that wrote Turning Pro? Can't remember. Have a look for it. And he says like if you how would you show up tomorrow if you treated your job or your passion or the thing you've got to do like a professional athlete? You would sleep well. You wouldn't fill your body with bullshit. Do you know what I mean? You'd be prepared. You'd have practiced
Right.
it. Your kit would be ready out for the next day. It's also the same argument of how much stuff you get done the day before you go on holiday.
Right.
Like you didn't have time to do anything, but all of a sudden, the day
Yeah.
before you went on holiday, oh God,
Right.
me, the whole house was clean, the mail was sorted,
Yeah.
the bins were out, the diary was boxed off, the dog was
Yeah.
fed, the kennels were sorted. Holy shit. Look at all this stuff I can get done in a day
Yeah. Yeah.
if I absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Like, what would the best version of me look like if he showed up today?
Right. And that
Epic.
yeah. And that's like coaching too. I mean, it goes back to those cancer patients, right? They're being coached to
Yeah.
do the things to get into that mindset. So like, you can do that as a leader and you should,
Mm,
but you have to do it to you first. Like you can't
mm,
go out there and just start coaching everyone else on self-esteem. You don't got any,
mm,
or you're having a deficiency. And that's a work in progress because that's not like you get it, you achieve it and you're done, you know,
mm,
that's a constant battle. And that's again goes back to the willingness where it's like I've taken this thing on where I'm going to become that now. That's something that I want to become. Just
mm,
like you were saying, like this is how a profession does it. I'm going to read this book. I'm going to get on this podcast because that's who I am.
mm,
And that's what you have to do when you're getting into those leadership roles. But at the
mm,
same time, you got to give yourself a little grace, right? Just like you give to anyone else. Back to the example of you're dating someone you really like. Yeah, sure, they have things that aren't great. They have things that are really great. So we're looking over those things that aren't really great because we like the things that are. And sometimes that person will do something you're like, man, I don't like that, or that kind of
mm,
let me down. But like, you know
mm.
what? I really like that person. And I know they're gonna get past this thing. And we gotta do that, give the same grace to ourselves.
How do we encourage people to do more of what you're doing? So, how do we confront what we owe the next generation? They say leaders plant trees under which they'll never sit. It's something we sort of alluded to a
Right.
couple of times during our conversation.
Right.
And whilst you've taken a lot of value from writing these books, A, most people will never write a book, and B, you didn't write the book for yourself, even though you'd have took a lot of value from it. The podcast itself, while it's been the best university I could have ever asked for, my core principle behind starting it was this is the thing I wish existed when I joined. Because there's loads of American versions, but a lot of it doesn't necessarily relate to some of the stuff we do in the UK.
Right.
And we don't really have any. Like, I could sit here and say, oh, Firefighters Podcast is the biggest one in the UK. Firefighter. Yeah, there's fucking one. You know what I mean? You're in a market of
Nailed
one.
it. Yeah.
Nailed it. But, you know,
Yeah.
we do have a massive international reach as well and all that shit. But the point of the matter is, how can people do their version of what you're doing? Because they might think, oh, gee, I'm not going to write a sodding book, Jared. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I've got some imposter syndrome, but how do we anchor people emotionally to be honest about what they didn't receive, maybe what you didn't receive from the last generation? And that's really, I feel like, what you've put down, certainly in the first book that I've read here. What do you think the next generation would want from us that we're at the risk of falling short of?
That's a big one. Yeah. We're gonna have to show them by example, and we got to start now.
Yeah.
At what that looks like, and that's kind of that's why I, put that book out to try to help and coach anyone that has those thoughts. Like I'd like to be better at this,
Mm,
or I might not even know that that was an option, or that might be really important. So it, I'm hoping that would kind of give someone like the step up into that realm to say, yeah, I'm gonna do this thing and I'm gonna be the example of it. Not just because it's gonna help me or you as the individual just to be happier, you know what I mean, and what you're doing, to have a better time and more purpose and meaning in what we do, in our profession. Right. Number one, you're gonna feel better when you do better. Like back to the performance athlete. When they eat better and they sleep better and they do whatever, they perform better, guess how they feel about themselves? Better, right? So
100%.
100%. So that's how we can do the same thing. Like instead of like, taking ourselves down a notch, we could take ourselves up a notch. And
Yeah.
then once we can achieve that to a degree where, okay, it's not gonna be perfect, be realistic about that, right?
Uh-huh.
But now I can say, hey, this is what's worked for me, right?
Mhm.
And I can coach my team, be like, dude, like
Mhm.
I went through some PTSD type issues. This is what worked for me, and I think this is maybe what could work for you. Or when I was earlier in my career, yeah, dude, I messed all this stuff up, and I still mess some of this stuff up. But here's what worked for me,
Mhm.
and then people will say, okay, maybe I'll listen to this guy or
Mhm.
girl,
Mhm.
and we got to start doing that as much as we can now,
Mhm.
not just because of those generations that are coming up, but also because those generations need it way more
Mhm.
than previous generations.
Mhm.
And that's not a bad thing, but that's just the reality of the situation. They need it.
Mhm.
So if we're not doing that, then we're going to have a lot more burnout and a lot more, mental health issues.
And you
And
can do
and
it at
for good,
every scale, can't we?
right,
There's the micro, the macro. You can shrink this down
right,
to the next best choice that you can make
right,
in whatever it is you're doing, whether you're at firefighter level, lieutenant, crew manager,
right,
watch manager, captain, deputy assistant commissioner, whatever it might be, whether it's on a personal level, like I have one on my fridge, which is, what would me tomorrow want me today to do?
right,
You know what
yeah,
I mean? How can when people say, do yourself a favor, what does that mean? Well, what would the me of tomorrow
right,
want me today to do? Probably want me to get some sleep. You know what I mean?
right,
Probably want me not to eat this crap. Probably want me to
right.
hydrate. Probably want me to actually prep for the conversation that I'm supposed to be having in the morning that I said was really
Yes,
important that I've waited a few months to have. Maybe just a little bit of prep for that
right,
one. You know, do those things for yourself. And also, like you said, there's no perfection in any of these pieces of advice. It's about getting in the sandpit and saying, look, don't make progress the enemy of perfect.
right,
Where can I pull a 1%, a 2% from this conversation for us as an
yep,
example? And what could I implement from that to help me tomorrow
right.
show up as a better version of myself?
Yeah, and then that sandpit, what's your attitude? I'm dirty in here, or I'm having fun in here.
Fuck yeah.
You know,
Always having fun.
have
Always.
fun.
Fucking
Dangerous.
hell.
Yeah,
Still play to
have
go,
fun,
baby.
man.
Um, I love that conversation, man. I desperately want to have another one. If people want to go and have a look underneath here first. So you'll see modernfireofficer.com, Jared Vermeulen. We've got book 1, Communicate, Motivate and Lead. And then we've got book 2, Building a Legacy That Endures. I owe you a second conversation once I've read the second book properly. Give me a couple months. We're about to go out and do some travel at Intershirts, and then we're coming back. But this is exactly the conversation I'd hoped it would be today, mate. And I really, really appreciate you coming on and unfolding some of these aspects. I realize I dragged you in 1,000 rabbit holes, which is my own bit of ADHD and curiosity. And also, I don't just want to come on and mentally high-five each other. Do you know what I mean? It's important that we challenge ourselves and push back as well, brother. But I appreciate you, mate. Send my love to all of the family, and let's get ready for round 2.
Yeah, same. Awesome, man. Thank you.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Hope you took a lot away from that episode. We started the Firefighters podcast to develop, inspire, connect, motivate, represent, and most importantly, celebrate the world of incredible emergency services operators and the wider sector through this series of wide-ranging conversations. We really love creating this podcast and bringing it to so many people. Did you know you can also find these on YouTube? We do a lot of video podcasts now. You can head over to our YouTube page and follow, subscribe there. And as a final ask from us, whatever platform you're on, please rate the podcast. It really helps us as a key performance indicator to reach more and more people. I've been your host, Pete Wakefield. This has been the Firefighters Podcast. And wherever you are in the world, please stay safe, be happy, and where possible, please remember and support your firefighters and first responders. I'll see you next time.